Hey guys, this is Elige and welcome to Refry Academy. Today we're going to be going over T-side post plants. We are going to be using Mirage as a baseline for like a 2v2 scenarios, just to show off what you should be, keeping in your mental checklist when you're going through these rounds. We're going to be going more in depth on other maps specifically, so make sure you check out those other videos to see how you want to play on those spots and what you should be doing. And let's get into it. To start things off, I want to outline the top 4 things that you should make sure that you are paying attention to when you are starting a post plant. Number 1, plant spot and defending the planter. 2, immediate post plant positioning. 3, available utility and staggering your util. And last but not least, when and when not to engage with your teammates. All right, getting into the checklist. So number 1, plant spot and defending the planter. When you are planting, let's just say defaults, the first things you want to say is I'm planting defaults, and you need to know where you last killed, like everybody on the site, for example, and then that kind of tells your second teammate if they need to defend you or not, because if they could potentially go CT, then you need somebody to protect you, and you can't protect, default, for example, from triple. The angles just don't work out like that. So make sure that you are defended if you need to be defended based off where they were. Otherwise, if your teammate doesn't need to be there, then he can get in some really, ratty position. Either he can go like back palace and then they won't know about him, and it's pretty much just about getting a really good position for the guy that doesn't have to defend you if it's not needed. So let's keep on moving on with 2, immediate post plant positioning. So if I just planted default, I just planted the bomb here, and let's just say my teammate, maybe he didn't need to defend me and he's playing palace. So let's play this scenario out. As soon as I plant, I don't really want to stay default unless I'm pinned down somewhere. And normally you're able to move back towards fire. This is probably where I would go. I'd either want to stay fire or, if I can just like dance around defaults. I don't really want to play here too much if I know that they can come CT, and I think they're going to be mainly coming here since these positions are very strong. For my teammate up in palace, if they don't know where I am, it's actually stronger for you not to peek at all. And I would normally just, hold sandwich cross, and I would just tell my teammate, okay, I have your sandwich cross. I'm not playing. And now for number 3, available utility and staggering. So if you're default and you have some nades here, this is where you want to be delaying as much as you can. As soon as you get this bomb down, you start thinking of how to survive. If you don't have anything, then you kind of have to take some duels, like where you'd want to be fire, or you'd want to be like jiggling here, see if you can, take some safe duels if possible. You can't die too early, of course, but if you want to like put down like a smoke and you can delay your time a little bit, and then you'd have to do this very early just so you're not giving a smoke to them when they can just defuse and all that. But try to delay your util so you can slow down the CTs from retaking, throwing whichever mollies you can to delay them. And now if I'm the guy in palace, again, we don't really want to throw anything. If you throw a flash at any point here, that can potentially give away your position, and this is where you want to be very mindful of the information that you're giving away to the other team. If you know that the other team has a lot of util left, make sure that you're not playing in a position where you can just get flushed out. So if you, for example, just like rushed A and you know that the B guys still have some util and you don't have anything left, then you don't really want to be sitting in positions where you can just get easily molotoved and you're kind of just, gonna run out into your death. That's where you want to try to move, if possible, to another spot where you're not going to immediately die if they just mollied out your position, and you can kind of swivel around. At any point, if your position is compromised and they know where you are, then both of you guys can just, throw the util that you can. So if this palace guy got spotted, feel free to stagger any of your util and try to like throw flashes to delay them, but try not to die as much as you can. All right, for number 4, when and when not to engage with your teammate. Now this is kind of going to depend based off of what has happened, if you were spotted, if you're not spotted. But going on with the same scenario where you're default and not spotted in palace, this default guy is usually going to be the only contact for as long as possible. That's pretty much the goal. What I would say in this situation is let's play 2 1v1s. This guy, he knows, he already told me, okay, I have your sandwich. If somebody tried like jumping Tetris, then he's going to get a free kill. And after that, if they're coming through CT or they're running across bench, you can get close here. And if they're like overcommitting, trying to kill your teammate here, this is where you can actually come out and try to kill this guy. Otherwise, if the timer is getting really low, you want to play until you hear the taps. And for the player at default, his main goal is to get as many kills as possible while delaying as long as he can. And in these situations where one guy is hidden the whole time, that is a 1v1 thing, unless, maybe it's a 2v1, and as soon as like this guy gets close, as soon as this guy starts shooting, then this guy gets close and he just peeks off of that contact. So these situations are going to be very malleable, and a lot of different things can happen, but the main thing is that they have to defuse the bomb. So keep that in your head the entire time. That's really obvious, but when the time is getting low, you have to play the timer. But if there's any situation where you know that the other team is going to be committing super hard and you might just get like a free kill at any point in time if you just swing out and go for a peek, then that's also a good option as well. So going on with the example, let's say that it went into 1v1. This guy delayed a super long time, and maybe there's 12 to 15 seconds left on the clock, or even lower than that. Maybe it's 10 to 12 seconds. And then they win for a tap. Now you have to be very careful as soon as they go for a tap, and it's all going to be dependent on how much money they have. If they have a kit that's very valuable information, then you know that there is a chance that he can stick, and that is going to influence your play. Maybe you can go for a swing right before he's about to tap. That's a really common play. So if the bomb is planted and you know that, he's running from here to here and you hear him running, you can just go for a swing right before he's about to get there and tap it, since if he's running from here to here, he has to run up and actually look down to tap it. So you can go for a kill there. But if you know that he has to do a full stick with 10, like the full duration of a diffuse, then that's very hard for him to deal with. That's when you usually want to like use the time to your advantage. If you hear the tap, then you wait, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then you just do like a swing. And if he's on it, then you're going to kill him and then you win. If he's not on it, then you win the round anyway. And if he does have a kit, it's definitely going to be a lot of mind games. This is where, you want to go for like little jiggles. You don't want to immediately peek unless you have like the timing, like I was kind of saying before, where you're going to have like the jump on him where you think he's going to go for like a retap. And, we all know the pros never fake stuff, but pros definitely fake, and you have to be very careful since there's a lot of options that they can go for. This was just a general overview of how you can play these situations and how you want to be going through the checklist, but make sure you check out the specific examples for each map in our other videos, and I'll see you in those ones. Starting off with the after plants on the A side of Mirage, I'm going to be talking about default, opposite defaults, triple, and I'm going to include here and tier, and inside of triple. So these are pretty much the most common plant spots and how you're going to be playing off of them. For default, we've already slightly touched on it, but as I said before, when you are planning for defaults, this is pretty much the safest position that you can go for, especially when you know that they can't be CT. So if you want to be safe, then aside from inside triple, it's probably going to be the safest position. Just make sure that you plant here and not here so you don't get spammed. And when you are saying that you're planning defaults, your teammates are going to have to cover you, most likely, mainly from CT. This is the main position where you're going to be covered from, especially if this side is smoked off on the right side. They can either cover you from palace, next to you default, or they could be really close in spawn. That's also ideal. Just any spot where you know that you can get the bomb down. And then as I was saying before with default, as soon as you plant the bomb, if you are able to take space, then you should. And the way that you want to think about default is you are planted for CT and palace. This is the main positions that you are planting the bomb for. And because it's safe, that also means that it's not open for a lot of other really good after plant bots. The playing ramp is going to be a little bit more difficult because you can't really get to the bomb quickly if they tap the bomb or they get onto the site. You can't really play anywhere in connector. You can't really play jungle. So all of these spots are pretty much not that great. You would have to play in a timing way where you're trying to kill them before they get onto the site. So keep that in mind if you're playing any after plant position where you are not able to get an immediate line of sight onto the bomb. Ideally, if you can, try to get to CT so you can actually play off of the taps at default, and you can play in the how to engage section a little bit better. It'll be much easier if the bomb is planted for you. These are pretty much the only spots that you can see, like I said before, CT and in palace. Anywhere in sight, that's pretty much how you want to play it. And if you are in a position where maybe your teammate planted safe and he died and now you're in a 2vx somewhere else, now you have to keep in mind that your main goal is to kill them as they're coming onto the site. And if they get onto the default position and they smoke off the bomb, it's going to be very difficult for you because now you're on a timer. You'll have to just run up here and try to just spam him planting. That's the situation that you're going to run into, which is very difficult. So now going into available utility and staggering. So this will kind of depend on your plant spots, but if you're going to go with you're playing for the bomb in this area on the left side of the A site, then I would say that the probably best spot to smoke off would probably be bench, which sounds a little weird, but if you are actually able to smoke bench off in any way, it's going to be pretty hard for them to come through, because now if you are in any of these spots that aren't ideal, then they're gonna have to run through a smoke. And even if you're playing CT or triple or anything like that, it's going to be very hard for them to get off. Now, you don't really see this happen too much because it's just very hard to get this off, but just think of like positions where it'd be very hard for the CTs to actually retake if they needed to. Another position to smoke off would probably be CT, and this would be very good, if you can like sit into the smoke or you sit next to the smoke, anything where if you were like locked down in sight, making it easier for you since you know that you're kind of open to these spots and you're giving yourself another line of something to play around. Other than that, I would say if you're stuck in sight, then just throwing like a smoke here and trying to like play around it any way that you can to try to, kill them before they get onto the site, or just delay so you don't get mollied out. Stuff like that is probably going to be the best thing that you can hope for. Other pieces of util is going to be just, standard flashes or Molotovs on the spots that you think they are to try to delay them as much as possible. For the next spot, we're going to be talking about opposite default. The opposite default is a good spot. It is planted for a lot more things. You can kind of play more for connector. You'll have to come out a little bit more, but when you are actually getting the bomb down, you're probably planting here because you know that you have some opening somewhere where your teammates can cover you. Whether that's, you have a line on CT and you have like a teammate in jungle or con, you have to have some type of advanced positioning to be planting open like this. And that's kind of like how I would describe it. It is like an open plant. I don't think it's as good as just planting like, side triple, for example, but I think that it is good. You're also very open to CT. So if any of your teammates are able to get into CT, then it is very strong. It's a little bit less strong for Palace, but it's still good. But this player would just have to run out a little bit more whenever he's deciding where to go. When you're playing ramp, this is also a very good position to be playing off of default. And as soon as you plant the bomb here, it'll depend on what advanced positioning that you have and what's kind of happening in the round. But honestly, just going back to ramp anywhere Tetris is going to be pretty good in this situation. Reason being that you can flash over for your teammates. You can do like any flash checks. So if you have two guys at ramp, you can flash over for one and you can see if they're on the bomb. It's also very easy to spam anyone that smokes on it. So these are kind of like the go-to spots that I would say, whether it's CT or ramp. It's probably the most planted for you. Jungle is also very good, but it's kind of a little bit up in the air. I think that this is just a very good overall plan spot for a lot of different spots. So for available utility and staggering, one thing to keep in mind, because ramp is such a good position and you can go for flash checks and everything like that, you can also go for this Molotov that is going to molly off anyone that's trying to defuse. It also gets anything side triple as well, so keep that in mind for the other plant position. But keep thinking of ways that you can slow them down. But because if you are ramp here, this is a really strong spot where you can molly onto the bomb, and anytime that you can do that, you should try to go for that. So next position, I'm going to go for front triple, and this is probably one of the best plant spots, I would say, because you are pretty much open to everything, but you are also able to get spammed from cat, and that's one of the spots that's a lot harder to lock down. That is usually why most people will plant here when they have connector control. So if you're going to be planting front triple, that's usually when you can't really clear out CT, and that's when you can't really clear out like everything here. You'll usually see this when you're splitting onto a site, because it's the easiest way for your teammate to cover you. Either he has to cover you from here and like all of A side is clear, and if you have another teammate, maybe it's a 3vx situation, then they're able to hold your CT and potentially wherever else the A guy might be if he hasn't died yet. So keep that in mind. Very good plant spot. Hard to actually lock down all of the spots that can come walk out and kill that guy, but it's pretty much the nature of how you're going to get to that spot. Let's keep with the line when you're thinking about where to go immediately after planting the bomb here. I would try to get back. If we're going to think about this is when I'm splitting on A, I just planted, they can be CT. You're either going to be stuck triple and your teammates, they have con and jungle for you, and you're actually able to play triple. It's not that bad of a spot if you know that they can't be cat. Kind of is going to depend on your situation, but if that's not a safe option, then I would try to get back to jungle or con. Jungle, con, even ramp, anywhere that you can get to that's going to be playing for the bomb and you can have immediate line of sight on the bomb if they go for any taps, is going to be the best situation possible for you. And the nice thing about playing bottom con is you can go for like these jump spots, and if they actually go for any taps, you'll be able to see that guy. You can throw mollies very easily. Try to play the bomb as much as possible when it's planted triple. This is probably one of the best spots that you can play, and I've also seen a lot of situations where someone will run all the way from ramp back to con, assuming that these guys will die at some point. Maybe they're you have like a very late line on the bomb, and yeah, try to get into this position as much as you can. So when planting inside triple, this spot is probably one of the worst, but I'd say it's out of a need of necessity. So this is when you're planting anywhere in triple. The positive of this plant is it's very easy for your teammates to cover you from CT, but they cannot do anything about CTs spamming you. So you are very easy to get spammed, but it is very easy for your teammates to cover you, because any of these positions that they can cover you from, even under Bal can cover you, they are going to get contact before you, whereas that is always not the case with default. But this is kind of when I'd say things are dire and you kind of just have to get the bomb down, and you're going to be planting here. This is not ideal, but it is easy for your teammates to cover you from CT. When you get the bomb down, I'd say the main goal should be trying to get out of triple as quickly as possible, because when you plant here, they know that you just planted there and you can just get spammed. So try to get over towards CT, try to get to default, use whatever util that you have, whether that's, flashing in con, flashing over con, re-smoking top con, whatever util you have that can get you out of this spot and you can like jump over and get out of there is going to be ideal. If you're playing from CT, the same kind of rules apply as I said when we were planting in default for this whole entire plant spot. So all of those rules still apply. Make sure that you're playing the time as much as possible and try to delay as much as you can. Moving on to the B side of Mirage, we are going to talk about default plant, planted for cat, and planted in this cubby here. Starting off with the default plant, it's default for a reason. This is probably the most common spot that you're ever going to plant for, and this is just a very good spot overall because as you can see, you are covered from window, you're covered from door, you're covered from upper B, and you're covered from cat. So if you get into the site and it's usually a really messy fight of how you got onto B site, maybe the cat guy's still alive, they're going to be rotating in. If you need to get the bomb down, then just plant defaults. If you don't know what else to do, I would just plant here. And it is very easy for your teammates to cover you here. For you to plant, you actually need to make sure that all of backside is clear. Make sure that you do this. The cat guys, they can be alive. That doesn't really matter as much, but if you guys do not clear out backside, then you really can't plant because they can just peek out whenever they want and just kill you planting from either of these pillars. And even if your teammates are insane gods, they are not going to be able to kill them fast enough every single time. So make sure that you clear out the back of the site, and that is like the main thing that anyone defending you is gonna do for you. Immediate post plant positioning, honestly, just sitting default is actually a really good post plant position, and there's even some clips from Coldzera playing here very well. Usually people will not like hard clear you in this spot because they're gonna assume you're gonna go to this pillar or this pillar. So keep in mind that this actually isn't that bad of a spot, and you can hear all of the sound cues of when the CTs are coming out of different spots. You can peek into them if you think they're coming, or you can move because you're very flexible from that spot. But it's actually very hard to move from this spot, and that's kind of like the issue with planning default is unless like this smoke window is still up, then they will always be able to see where you go. So without that smoke being up, you can't really move too much because they could be cat, they could be posted on the window cross from here, they could be on this angle on you. But if the smoke is up and you are able to get across, or maybe the other team's positioning, I would try to move. Maybe you can get to get right, you could play at this pillar for example, so you can kind of play off your teammates, you can play off this pillar. I would just try to move from the spot just so they don't know exactly where you are, but it still is a good spot overall. So for number 3, available utility and staggering, as I was kind of highlighting out the issues with this position, you should see the answer as well. The answer would be trying to smoke off window, since this is the spot that's pinning you down from all of your different options, and it's making it so you can't really move too much. So if you can smoke window, if you know that they're cat, you can always just smoke off cat. You can just smoke like whatever position here, even something like this. Okay, yeah, I mean CS2 smokes are amazing and anything can hit, so just anything that can kind of let you move around and make it so the opponent doesn't know exactly where you are. If you know that they're coming from cat, you can smoke that and try to just get to bench. You can play on these back pillars, anything like that, and try to just get to really good post plant positions. If you have cat control, then you can get to e-box and play on these lines, your teammates can like play off of you, anything like that. Moving on to the cat plant, so this plant is obviously planted for cat, but it is also planted for window as long as you don't plant too far in. If you plant too far on the right, then your teammates obviously can't see you from window. So this is a very strong position if you can plant as far close to cat as possible, because you are planting for upper B as well. And in terms of defending the planter, teammates have to control cat for you. You need somebody up here, whether they're in ladder, get right holding, playing on this wall, holding cat. You need somebody to hold this position for you, and everything on B, you need to make sure that backside is clear. So that is a rule for every single plant position, and you should have no problem getting this bomb down. For after plant positions with a cat plant, obviously playing on cat is one of the best positions. I would say actually upper B might even be better, just because it's very hard for the CTs to know that you're here, but it's going to be very difficult for you to get here if you're the one that planted. So if you're with any teammates, if they can play in upper B and play off of this bomb, if you have one guy upper B and one guy that got to cat after you planted, for example, you're able to smoke window, kind of the same reasons where I said with the default plant, try to smoke window. You can even just go back here and smoke it yourself, and then you can get to get right. And this is going to be the best possible spots that you can play if you can get to get right or cat, since you can kind of dance around this pillar, or you can wait at bricks and you could wait for these taps to happen, and then you can make educated guesses of when you think they're actually on it, and you can go for good peaks on them not expecting you. If you're in upper B, B, it's going to be the same thing. I would try to play last in these situations when you are upper B, because this is a little bit more uncommon depending on the situation, of course, that someone's going to expect you to be cat, especially if your teammates chat or get right and, you know, a lot of things were happening. This is usually like the ace up the sleeve, I would say, whenever you're seeing, you know, a 3vx, 2vx, 4vx, and everyone's dying on site, and then there's one more guy upper B that has this line on the cat plant. Now, moving on to our final plant position in this little cubby. This is kind of like triple on a site where this is dire straits. If you need to get the bomb down, then this is kind of where you plant. I would even say that it's okay for upper B since they can play on this line. You can't really play on this since they can fuse on the left side, and you would kind of need your teammates to play like around the site. They can play get right as well, but it's very difficult to get out of this spot if you're planting. So I would try to not plant here as much as possible, and it's only when you kind of need to. If you're like pinned down, or, you know, there's something that's crazy that's happening that's making you want to play this position, because it's not really open to as many spots as default. You can't play market as easily if you happen to get in this spot and you have to like jump out here and like spam this bomb diffuser. Yeah, I think just overall it's very hard to get out of the spot, especially because of the reasons why you would ever go here. Try not to plant here if possible, but it is useful because you are covered from market and cat, which are going to be like the very scary positions, and upper B. So if you need to, you can plant here, but you're probably not going to get away from this spot, I would say. And then in terms of available utility and staggering, you are going to have the most difficulty getting away in this spot. So if your teammate can smoke window for you, if you have something, I would honestly just like smoke this to try to get away. I would even try to like throw like a jiggle out here or throw like a flash. You know, it's not really going to get you away from window, which is why it's so hard. You would need some like insanely crazy flash to try to get away from the spot to blind window, and anything you throw they're going to see anyway. So your teammates are going to be having to help you with this. Maybe they can flash window for you if possible, and you can try to jump out, but like I said, it's going to be very difficult in these positions here. Now with the B side of Mirage, I kind of want to do like an overall how to play Asher plants on this spot, because it's a little different from, you know, other spots where there are just overall very good ways that you want to play this bomb site in the Asher plants, and checklist that you kind of want to do. The first thing that I kind of have mentioned already is you need to clear out backside. There's just no way that you're going to be able to plant this bomb without clearing all of backside. So this is super mandatory. Any B pop that you do, or if you're running up cat, you have to clear out this backside here, and you even need to clear this too. So you need people like scaling up here. You need people, you know, jumping out to the right here and making sure that nobody's on this position here, making sure that they're not bench, everything like that. That's the only way that you're going to reliably get the bomb down. And then in terms of overall positions of where you want to play, I kind of went through with the, you know, specific plants, but kind of like the spots that you want to go for just in general is upper B. Upper B can just play off of a lot of these positions very well, but I don't think it does very well when you need to pick people off. If you're in like a 1vx situation where that's, you know, a number greater than 2, then I think that you do have to kind of swivel around and like go for kills. And at upper B, it's just not very easy duels to do that compared to some other spots that I prefer, but it is very good for pretty much all the plant spots. Only bad thing is you kind of have to go all the way out to balcony to clear defaults, unless they planted a little bit wider. But this is a very strong position, especially if you can be like the ace up the sleeve, kind of like I was saying earlier. The second position that you really want to try to get to if possible is bench. This position is extremely strong, and you can play it a lot of different ways, and it's good pretty much against every single spot that the enemies can be at. Even if they're upper B, it's still good. You can be, you know, hiding, and you can go for like jiggles on balcony, and you won't be like super exposed to them coming out market. It's very good against cat since there's a headshot angle, and you're not really going to get spammed for too much damage. This is spammable with every rifle and op, of course, but you're not going to be taking that much damage. But I think this is one of the best swivel positions where you can kind of play off of everybody, and you can go for really good timing peaks. If anyone tries holding you from window, this isn't a very good position for them to hold, and if you just like peek any of these spots like with intent, then you can get a lot of multi-frags here, and if you have good movement, then you can play very well in this position. Another spot that's very similar is just like at the backside of bench, and this is kind of a different spot, but it's kind of like an off angle where the other team, when they're coming out, they're not really going to be like checking, you know, this spot specifically, since there's so many other spots for them to check. They have to, you know, check their e-box, they have to check like this position, they do have to check you as well. They have to be worried about all these different angles that they just expose themselves to, so keep that in mind. And you're also able to play kind of second contact, and I've had it a lot where, you know, people are jumping out e-box, and I'm able to just, you know, take out these guys that are focused on my teammates, either at get right or maybe they're like left side default pillar, and anytime that you go for like this kill, you can immediately swing and get these next ones. So I just feel like bench is just a very good overall flowy position where you can play, you know, at your own pace and you're in control a lot of the duels that you take. And then I think the third major position that I want to talk about is E-box. And E-box is a very strong position. As you can see, all of the angles here are right angles where you're going to be further from the angle from them, and if they try jumping out window, you're going to have the advantage since they're going to be in the air, or they're going to be inaccurate when they fall down. Only downside is obviously you're exposed to, you know, cat if they're all the way up here or upper B, but it's still not bad. So if you're able to get to E-box and they don't even know about you, maybe they might think you're there, then it's a very good position for your teammates to play contact off of. So if you have like get right and upper B control, maybe your E-box and it's a 4vx, for example, then everyone can kind of peek off of you in this situation. As soon as they start coming out, then you're going to be the first contact. You're going to have a really good chance of getting the first one, maybe two, and then everyone can kind of peek off of you. And overall, I think it's just a very strong position. Even when they're coming up cat, usually the other team is not going to expect that you're there because they're running up here. They're expecting, you know, windows, they're expecting right side bench, they're expecting defaults. They probably have, you know, a cat and market retake that they're trying to do, and it's just very hard for them to keep track of everything. But you kind of need your teammates to help you bail you out here. You can't be the first contact when they're splitting up cat and market, since you're going to get crunched very easily. If no one's taking any contact and they're not shooting, then you're going to be in a very tough position. This was the high level overview of T-side afterplants on Mirage. So I hope you enjoyed that and you learned some things of how you can play a little bit better in some of these afterplant spots. Make sure you check out the other maps because a lot of these concepts are going to apply to other maps of how you can play them, and I'll see you guys in those videos. See you.